Well, today we're talking about the line in the Lord's Prayer that says, "Give us this day our daily bread." And I thought it was only appropriate that as I spoke to you about it, I ate my lunch. This line, it's packed with meaning. Jesus, we've got to remember, he was a Jew, and Jesus' followers were Jews. And so if he was a Jewish teacher, he was a rabbi. And so I think that I want to focus on the Hebrew background to this line of the Lord's Prayer. I think there's three things that we can see in the Hebrew background of this Lord's Prayer. First thing is this line gets at our creaturely dependence on God. Give us today our daily bread. In the third day of creation, God made the land to produce vegetation, seed-bearing plants and trees that bear fruit with seed in them, and so on. And then at the end of the creation narrative, God says, "This is for you to eat. Go and enjoy." And so we need to appreciate that God is the one from whom all of our food comes. Now, this meal that I'm eating right now, it came from HelloFresh, which was left on my doorstep, and it's easy for me to forget that this actually is a gift that was given to me by God, because I didn't have to go and buy it, I didn't have to go and grow it, I didn't have to go and water it, or any of those sorts of things. And I think we often forget where our food comes from, but the Bible tells us that ultimately food comes from God. It's about our creaturely dependence on God. And when it says bread, it's talking about all sustenance. Bread is symbolic of all the things that sustain us. So you can pray this prayer even if you're a celiac, because it's a recognition that all good things come from the hand of God, including the food that we eat. So the second thing is that food, give us this day our daily bread, is about godly contentment. It's our daily bread. All we need is this day's bread. This is actually really hard to deal with, because I think we like to plan a long way ahead and we like to store up things for the future. But this is asking that we would have our daily bread. Now, you might remember the Israelites, when they were in the wilderness, they were upset that they didn't have any food. God decided to provide for them, and he provided for them daily food that only lasted for a day, and then the next day it would go off. But then the next day he would provide food for them again, and that food would only last for a day. And the only time that this ever changed was on the Sabbath, when on Friday, Sabbath is Saturday, and on Friday he would give them twice as much food, and the food would last for 2 days because they wouldn't get food on the Sabbath. But the idea of daily bread, that goes all the way back to the Israelites in the wilderness. And it's a good reminder for us that even if we want to store up for the future, God is going to provide for our daily needs, because that teaches us about contentment. The third thing that I think this prayer teaches us is about compassion, because this is a family prayer. You might have noticed it says, "Give us this day our daily bread." We're praying for not just our own provision, but for our brothers and sisters as well as the whole world. This finds its roots in the Israelite story, because they were farmers, and God told them back in Deuteronomy that when they farm, when they harvest their crops, they shouldn't harvest all of the fruit off the tree. They shouldn't harvest all of the grapes off the vine. They should leave some of it there for the sojourner in the country, for those who have less and need to be provided for as well. So even from all the way back in the early days of God working with humanity, he wanted his people to have compassion in the way they use their food. And we similarly are praying that God would give us our daily bread. Half of our brothers and sisters in the world, Christian brothers and sisters, are poor, profoundly poor, and they're hungry. And we are meant to pray for their daily bread. And that's not to mention the rest of the human family, who are also poor and hungry, and we're praying for their daily bread as well. So there you go. There's three things that I think this line teaches us. Give us this day our daily bread, and we can be very grateful to God for the food he has given us.